Most people think power comes from money, influence, talent, or circumstance, but real power begins long before any of those show up in your life. Real power begins in the moments when no one is watching, when something doesn't go your way, when pressure rises, when fear creeps in, when anger knocks at the door, and the question becomes simple yet life-defining: who is in control right now, you or your emotions? Because the truth is, emotions are not the enemy, but unmanaged emotions will run your life faster than you can imagine. Every breakthrough, every collapse, every decision that changed your future was first an emotional decision. And if emotions are the engine of action, then discipline is the steering wheel that determines where your life actually goes. Emotional discipline is the foundation of personal power because it determines how you show up in every defining moment of your life, not when things are easy, but when pressure is high and the stakes are real. Power is not built in comfort, it is built in challenge, and the way you respond emotionally to those challenges shapes your identity over time. Every successful outcome, every meaningful relationship, every breakthrough begins with the ability to manage internal states before attempting to control external results. When emotions are left undirected, they dictate behavior, and behavior repeated long enough becomes destiny. That is why emotional discipline is not a soft skill. It is a survival skill in a world that constantly tests patience, resilience, and focus. Most people wait for the right emotion before they take action. They wait to feel confident before they speak up, motivated before they move, calm before they decide. But personal power belongs to those who act first and train their emotions to follow. Emotional discipline is the ability to decide how you will feel, regardless of circumstances, and then act in alignment with that decision. It is choosing purpose over impulse, clarity over chaos, and growth over comfort. When you cultivate this discipline, you stop being reactive and start becoming intentional. Life no longer happens to you, it happens because of you. True personal power shows itself in moments of adversity. When something unexpected happens, when plans collapse, when criticism arrives, emotions surge instantly. Discipline is what allows you to pause instead of explode, to assess instead of assume, to respond instead of react. This pause creates space, and space creates choice. Choice is where power lives. Without emotional discipline, emotions shrink that space until there is no choice left, only habit and regret. With discipline, even the most intense emotion becomes information instead of instruction. Emotional discipline also creates consistency, and consistency is the backbone of long-term success. Anyone can feel inspired for a moment, but disciplined individuals show up even when inspiration fades. They understand that emotions are temporary, but standards are permanent. By holding themselves to higher emotional standards, they build trust with themselves. This self-trust compounds into confidence, certainty, and influence. People naturally follow those who are emotionally grounded because stability creates safety, and safety creates leadership. As emotional discipline strengthens, it transforms challenges into training grounds. Stress becomes sharpening. Pressure becomes preparation. Pain becomes perspective. Instead of asking why something is happening, disciplined individuals ask how this moment can serve their growth. This shift alone changes everything. Power no longer comes from controlling the world, but from commanding the self. And when the inner world is mastered, the outer world responds almost effortlessly, opening doors, attracting opportunities, and revealing strengths that were always there waiting to be unlocked. Your emotions do not control your destiny, your ability to manage them does, and this single truth separates those who feel trapped by life from those who actively shape it. Emotions are powerful signals, but they are not commands unless you allow them to be. Fear can warn you, but it does not have to stop you. Anger can highlight injustice, but it does not have to turn into destruction. Sadness can invite reflection, but it does not have to define your future. Destiny is not written by what you feel in the moment, but by what you choose to do with that feeling when it arises. Every major decision in life carries an emotional charge. Career moves, relationships, leadership choices, even daily habits are influenced by emotional states. When emotions are unmanaged, they quietly make decisions for you, often rooted in short-term relief rather than long-term fulfillment. This is how people stay stuck in patterns they say they want to escape. They are not lacking intelligence or desire, they are lacking emotional management. The moment you learn to regulate your emotional state, you regain authorship over your choices, and authorship is the gateway to destiny. Managing emotions does not mean denying them. It means understanding them, naming them, and redirecting their energy. Emotions are energy in motion, and like all energy, they must move somewhere. If not guided, they leak into procrastination, self-sabotage, and reactive behavior. When guided, they turn into focus, courage, and resolve. The difference between panic and preparation is emotional management. The difference between resentment and resilience is emotional management. The same emotion, directed differently, creates completely different outcomes. People often believe that certain emotions disqualify them from success, but the truth is that no emotion is permanent, and no emotion has authority unless you grant it permission. Confidence is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act despite it. Calm is not the absence of stress, it is the mastery of response under pressure. When you manage your emotions, you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start creating effective conditions. You realize that you do not need life to be easier, you need yourself to be stronger. As emotional management becomes a habit, your sense of identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of moods or circumstances and start seeing yourself as the driver of your internal state. This creates emotional resilience, the ability to recover quickly and adapt powerfully. Over time, this resilience compounds into momentum. You make better decisions, build stronger relationships, and take bolder actions because your inner world is stable. And when your inner world is stable, your direction becomes clear, your actions become deliberate, and your destiny becomes something you consciously shape instead of something you accidentally inherit. The strongest leaders are not emotionless. They are emotionally directed. And this distinction defines the difference between control and chaos. Leadership has never been about suppressing feelings or pretending pressure does not exist. True leadership is the capacity to feel the full weight of responsibility while still choosing a response that serves the mission, the people, and the moment. Emotional. SS leaders become disconnected, while emotionally directed leaders become trusted, respected, and followed because they know how to channel emotion into clarity rather than confusion. Every leader faces moments of intensity, uncertainty, and conflict. In these moments, emotions rise quickly, and without direction, they can spread like wildfire. Fear can turn into hesitation, anger into intimidation, frustration into withdrawal. Emotionally directed leaders recognize these signals without being consumed by them. They understand that emotions are information, not instructions. By interpreting rather than reacting, they create stability in environments where others feel overwhelmed. This stability becomes a source of confidence for everyone around them. Emotional direction allows leaders to communicate with power and authenticity. When emotions are acknowledged and guided, communication becomes clear, grounded, and intentional. People do not follow words alone, they follow emotional certainty. A leader who can remain composed under pressure sends a silent message of strength. A leader who can express empathy without losing direction builds loyalty. Emotional direction creates balance. The ability to be firm without being rigid, compassionate without being weak, and decisive without being reckless. The absence of emotional direction often leads to leadership by reaction. Decisions are made in the heat of the moment, driven by ego, fear, or the need to prove something. This creates inconsistency, and inconsistency erodes trust. Emotionally directed leaders, on the other hand, respond from values rather than volatility. They pause, assess, and then act with intention. This pause is not hesitation, it is mastery. It is the space where wisdom replaces impulse and strategy replaces survival. Emotional direction also strengthens resilience. Leaders are constantly exposed to criticism, pressure, and responsibility. Without emotional direction, these forces accumulate and lead to burnout or detachment. With direction, challenges become manageable and even meaningful. Leaders learn to process emotions constructively, extracting insight instead of carrying resentment. This keeps their vision clear and their energy focused, even in prolonged periods of stress. Over time, Emotionally directed leadership creates a culture of accountability and growth. People feel safe to express ideas, take risks, and learn from mistakes because emotional chaos is not rewarded or amplified. Instead, clarity and composure set the standard. This culture multiplies results because it aligns emotional energy with collective purpose. The leader does not dominate emotions, they orchestrate them. And in doing so, they create momentum that extends far beyond their individual influence. Pain and pressure are unavoidable forces in life, but they do not exist to weaken you, they exist to reveal you. When emotions are left unmanaged, pain becomes something to escape, and pressure becomes something to fear. But when emotions are trained, those same experiences transform into fuel for growth, strength, and momentum. Emotional training changes the meaning of discomfort. Instead of seeing pain as a stop sign, it becomes a signal for expansion. Instead of viewing pressure as a threat, it becomes proof that you are stepping into something that matters. Every breakthrough is preceded by some form of pain or pressure. The body resists change. The mind resists uncertainty. Emotions react to unfamiliar territory. Without emotional training, these reactions dictate retreat. With training, they become feedback. Pain sharpens awareness. Pressure focuses attention. When emotions are trained, you stop personalizing discomfort and start using it. You ask not how to avoid the feeling, but how to move through it with strength and intelligence. Training emotions requires repetition and intentional exposure. Just as muscles grow by resistance, emotional strength grows through challenge. Each time you face discomfort without collapsing into reaction, you build capacity. Each time you stay present instead of distracted, you gain control. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once triggered fear becomes familiar. Emotional training does not remove pain. It builds the ability to function powerfully in its presence. When pain and pressure are embraced as training, identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as fragile and start seeing yourself as capable. This shift changes how you approach obstacles. Instead of asking whether you can handle it, you assume you can and focus on how. Emotional training teaches you to separate sensation from story. Pain is a sensation. Pressure is a condition. The story you attach to them determines whether they become fuel or friction. This trained response creates momentum. Rather than slowing you down, challenges accelerate growth. You become sharper, more focused, and more resilient. Emotional training teaches you to regulate intensity instead of avoiding it. High performers do not experience less pressure, they experience more, but they have learned how to harness it. They channel adrenaline into action and uncertainty into preparation. What exhausts others energizes them because their emotional system is conditioned for performance. As this conditioning deepens, pain loses its power to intimidate. Pressure no longer signals danger, it signals opportunity. You begin to trust yourself in uncomfortable situations because you have evidence of your ability to adapt. This trust creates courage, and courage creates movement. Movement sustained over time creates transformation. Emotional training does not eliminate struggle. It ensures that struggle produces strength, wisdom, and forward motion instead of stagnation or retreat. Mastery of emotions creates clarity because when the internal noise settles, perception sharpens and priorities become visible. Most confusion in life is not caused by lack of information, but by emotional overload. When emotions run unchecked, they distort reality, magnify problems, and cloud judgment. Emotional mastery allows you to see situations as they are rather than as they feel in the heat of the moment. This clarity becomes the foundation for intelligent action, because clear thinking produces deliberate decisions instead of impulsive reactions. With clarity comes confidence, not the loud or performative kind, but the quiet certainty that comes from self-trust. When you consistently manage your emotional state, you prove to yourself that you can be relied upon under pressure. This self-reliance builds confidence that is not dependent on approval, success, or perfect circumstances. You no longer need external validation to feel secure because your stability comes from within. Emotional mastery allows confidence to grow steadily, rooted in discipline rather than mood. Confidence fueled by emotional mastery naturally leads to momentum. Momentum is not created by massive effort all at once, but by consistent forward movement over time. When emotions are unmanaged, progress is inconsistent. High motivation is followed by burnout. Excitement is followed by avoidance. Emotional mastery smooths these extremes, allowing you to move forward even when energy fluctuates. You act based on standards rather than feelings. And this consistency compounds into unstoppable momentum. Momentum transforms how challenges are experienced. Instead of stopping progress, obstacles become part of the forward motion. Emotionally mastered individuals recover quick. Lie from setbacks because their identity is not tied to momentary outcomes. They extract lessons instead of carrying disappointment. This resilience keeps momentum alive even in adversity. Each small win reinforces belief, and belief fuels further action, creating a self-sustaining cycle of growth and progress. As clarity, confidence, and momentum align, life begins to feel less reactive and more intentional. Decisions are made with purpose. Relationships are navigated with presence. Goals are pursued with patience and persistence. Emotional mastery creates coherence between thought, feeling, and action. This alignment reduces inner conflict, freeing energy that was previously wasted on doubt and distraction. That energy becomes available for creativity, leadership, and execution. Over time, this emotional mastery shapes identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries, but as someone who follows through. You no longer wait for the right feeling because you know how to create the right state. This identity shift is the source of unstoppable momentum. When emotions are mastered, clarity guides direction, confidence sustains effort, and momentum carries you forward, making progress not a struggle, but a natural expression of who you have trained yourself to become.